Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Jiayanum. Bkhair aghle. Ni hao. Tune shume. Washmale. Ohaya gozaimasu. Guten Morgen. Hola. Boyor. Privyet. Kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore. Ahlan wa sahlan. Marhaba. Buna. Mucho. Gracias. Suaviam. Balli kare aaya. Hosh galden. And thank you very much everybody for tuning into PTV World. You're definitely watching What This Morning alongside my very fantastic, amazing, very well-learned colleague, Miss Maheen Jaffrey, and I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is ready to kickstart their day with us. Hello Maheen, how are you doing today?
Assalamu alaikum Shahzad, how are you doing today and how was your weekend?
Well, I think so far so good, alhamdulillah. I'm full of energy, you know, I'm on top of my health.
I can feel that, I can feel the vibes coming out, right?
I thought you asked me a question and you would allow me to answer that as well. But
Yeah,
getting
please go
started
ahead.
with that, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, you know, I feel great, and that's exactly how I want each and every one of you to be as of now. And, you know, we pray certainly that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well, and that not just that you're ready to kickstart your day with us, but, you know, that you're ready to kickstart your week with us as well, because everybody's planning. I mean, this is how my life is these days, that I kind of take notes and, you know, make sure that, okay, you know, this is what I'm supposed to do throughout the week, so that I stick to that, because God forbid if I don't, and I'm full of guilt, and then I kind of, you know, I'm very angry with my own self. I don't know how it goes with other people, but that's how I am, that's how ambitious I am, and this is what I want people to be. You know, please make sure that you be in charge of your own life. Make sure that you ask Allah Almighty for everything you want in life, and then just follow that hard-working path. What about you?
Yes,
How was the weekend for you?
Well, weekend was very busy because for all the women who are working or career women, it's like, you know, always hustling and trying to take out the me time. So I was all this time I was trying to find the me time, but I kind of didn't get it. And
What do you do? You know, so if you want yourself to have some me time, what do you do in your me time?
well, I would
Just
love
be on
to
the phone?
No.
Probably watch videos?
Watch something, of
Okay.
course, right? Just to have the me, or you know, the relaxation that I need. Most probably the mental relaxation.
Just staying there, not doing
Yeah,
anything.
yes, staying on the couch, not doing anything. Have my cup of tea or coffee, and then watch something amazing, or maybe read something.
So I think
That's
if
my
there
me
are family members of your family who are watching right now, please make sure that you give Maheen her me time as well.
Oh.
That's very important. And you know,
Thank
it's
you so
important for your own mental health as well, ladies and gentlemen. So please make sure whenever you feel like having me time, make sure that you're vocal about it. Go talk to your family and be like, hey, you know what? Nobody's supposed to enter my room.
Exactly,
You know, let me do
yeah.
whatever
That's
I want to do.
important. That's
I think
important
that's
for
very
mental
important.
health.
But first things first, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what's happening all over the globe. And the news today, ladies and gentlemen, I think it was very sad when we actually got to hear that the Prime Minister, Mohammed Shahbaz Sharif Sahab, visited the UAE to offer condolences on the demise of His Highness Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of the United Arab Emirates, who passed away on 13th of May 2022. During his meeting with the newly elected President of the UAE, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Prime Minister expressed deepest condolences on behalf of the government and people of Pakistan. Right.
Well, next we talk about the global food crisis, of course. We talk about the weather change and the climate change. So many things are going to be happening. There are so many reports that we need to be careful about. How are we spending our days and what are we choosing? So, Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari will leave for the United States on Tuesday to lead Pakistan's delegation at a ministerial level meeting on global food security in New York on Wednesday. The meeting, convened by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, is aimed at responding to the escalating food crisis across the world in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And according to diplomatic sources, the meeting will review the urgent humanitarian needs and identify steps to build resilience for the future. Ministerial meeting will be followed by UN Security Council debate on conflict and food security the following day.
And I like how Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is obviously taking forward legacy of a foreign minister as well. And I just feel great. I feel happy for him too as well. And I think he's come a long way as well. But in other news, ladies and gentlemen, another historical achievement for Pakistan. Do you want to go for it, or do you want me to kind of do the
please,
honors?
go ahead.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So when we talk about an historical achievement, Mr. Shahroz Kashif summits world's fourth highest peak. Pakistani mountaineer Shahroz Kashif added yet another feather to his cap as he became the youngest mountaineer in the world to reach the summit of the world's fourth highest peak, Hotse in Nepal. The 20-year-old Shahroz, who has already made two another unique world records, became the youngest mountaineer in the world as he summited the four highest peaks of the world: Everest 8,849 meters, K2
Wow.
8,611 meters, Kanchenjunga 8,586 meters, and Hotse 8,516 meters. And it's not easy at all to summit 8,000-meter peaks, ladies and gentlemen. So Shahroz, congratulations. Thank you very much for making Pakistanis proud.
Of course, when it comes to young talent, Pakistan is so full of talent, and especially if we talk about yeah, of course. And when we talk about sports, especially, we have another news. Now, the event at Red Bull Tanger 7 in Salzburg, also known as the Paper Plane World Championship, took place for the first time since 2019 due to COVID pandemic. Pakistani Rana Muhammad Usman Saeed topped the longest airtime podium with this plane staying aloft for 14.86 seconds, while Serbian Lazar Krestic won the distance discipline with his throw of just over 200 feet. In the aerobatics competition, it was South Korean Lee who was judged the winner after being awarded 46 points for his performance.
Wow. I think a paper plane competition, who thought that, that we might even have paper plane competitions as well? Because back in the day when I was in school, I think that's what I used with all my copies, taking out papers, taking them apart and then making paper planes. And our teachers always punished us. Imagine there was so much scope of it as well. But ladies and gentlemen, moving on, obviously, since we all know that, that Pakistan's under a strict heat wave, so we really need to kind of make stringent efforts and make sure that we take initiatives which are actually going to protect us from that heat wave, and each and every one of you. So please make sure that you drink more water, avoid exposure to direct sunlight. And the NIH advisory actually says, or the National Institute of Health has issued an advisory on heat stroke in the wake of the recent high temperature in different parts of the country. In its advisory, the NIH has advised people to drink more water, avoid exposure to direct sunlight, cover head with a hat, and wear light-colored loose clothing. It said heat stroke is a medical condition which can be fatal if not treated in time. Symptoms of heat stroke include hot and dry skin, weakness or lethargy, fever, headache, and rapid heartbeat. If not treated properly in time, it can lead to death or damage to limbs or disability. Infants, people over 65, people with diabetes and high blood pressure, athletes, and outdoor workers have a higher risk of heat stroke. Ladies and gentlemen, we have certainly fulfilled our role. Please make sure that you share this news with your friends as well, only if in case they weren't tuned into PT World as well. But now, for all of that news we share, for all of that information we share, for all of that knowledge we share, there's a lot of research which goes into it. But for people to comprehend this knowledge and to kind of make or positive use of the information we share, what do you think is the most basic element they require?
Well, I think, of course, education is something that we need.
Thank you very much. You're so smart, my friend.
Something that I wanted to share. When I was going outside yesterday, I saw so many children, and I was thinking to myself how important education is to them and how they can make something out of their life, provided we provide them equal opportunities and education.
And while you were saying that, when you stepped out of your house, you might be like, yaar, itni garmi mein bacche kidhar khel rahe hain. And this is something me and my father actually spoke about, that, when we used to be kids, obviously, it was supposed to be this hot, even at back then, the time as well. And we never kind of cared about it. But ladies and gentlemen, this time it's serious. More than 200 animals have actually died as well. More than 65 people have passed away just because of this heat wave. So please make sure that you protect yourself and your loved ones as well. But today, while obviously we're talking about education, ladies and gentlemen, certainly, we really need to get out of this very mindset where how parents are only focused on making sure that their son or daughter is going to become a doctor or an engineer. There are so many disciplines world over these days that people really need to explore and then make sure that they kind of achieve what they want to in their life. Let's talk about internet, let's talk about the economy of internet as well. There's so many things, and there's so many newer disciplines and courses coming in that we really need to kind of match up.
And really even through social media, there's so much competition that I think books are no longer needed because there's so much stuff out there related to every topic on social media.
All right, we'll talk about that. Social media, I don't think that, that that's a lot of content which is going to help you in your life. But yes, obviously, Google Scholar or probably things like that.
Well, there are good
you
things.
might get relevant material on that too as well. But to speak about it, we're very lucky that we've been joined by the most amazing and apt guest as we're here, because this gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, alongside his team, is celebrating their 3rd anniversary of this very college system which they initiated only 3 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've been joined by the Chief Executive Officer of the Beacon House International College, and he is Mr. Nasir Mahmood Kasuri. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Absolutely perfect. Thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely looking stunning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much once again. So, sir, this is where I'm going to start my conversation from. we've always been stuck in between becoming an engineer and a doctor. The world has moved on, may it be international relations, maybe there's so many other fields these days. And even that the top 500 Fortune companies now do not require a professional degree from you. They say that if you have a skill set, that's it, that's what we want
That's what
from
you
you.
need.
How do you think that we really need to kind of jump onto the wagon of the fourth industrial revolution as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things, well, thank you for having me on the show. I think one of the things which is becoming really relevant now with the fourth industrial revolution is the idea of, retooling and reskilling. At one time, the idea that most parents and students had was that they would have a 4-year bachelor's, maybe a postgraduate degree, and then they would have the same career for the rest of their lives. I think one of the things that's happening now, as a consequence of the fourth industrial revolution, is you have an increasing amount of redundancy of jobs happening. So more and more jobs being taken up by artificial intelligence, automation. There's research out there that suggests that anywhere up to 50 or 60% of the jobs that exist today may not exist in the future. In fact, a child that's born today could very likely be employed in a job that doesn't exist at this time. So I think one of the challenges that poses for education is to kind of really reinvent their model, or at least revalidate their model. So I'm not saying that 4-year degrees are not relevant. I think they're still relevant. But I think that the way in which we educate students needs to be more geared towards not just learning facts, but rather teaching them research skills. So that, for example, tomorrow if their job changes or they have to go into a new job, they have the mental discipline and the skill set and the research skills and the flexibility.
And there's more adaptability as well.
More adaptability. So I think what we try to do in education in general now is not just teach the subject, but to teach a lot of life skills along with that, because those remain relevant forever.
Exactly.
So I think that's one of the, and then of course, the fourth industrial revolution itself, a lot of the disciplines and fields which are now being taught, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, cryptocurrency, these didn't, exist before. So in terms of the subjects that are being taught or the content of courses like computer science, they have to be vastly different than what they used to be maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
True. And
So
thank
big
you very much
difference.
for highlighting that as well, which is why, I believe that it's a very pertinent question to ask, and that is that while I was in my school or college, there was this debate, number one, because my younger brother actually studied with Beacon House as well. So I was like, you're in A levels, you're still going to a school system. It was Beacon House school system. So I'm glad to know that we at Beacon House now actually have colleges as well, which they're referring to as colleges. But the other question, sir, over here is now, what I certainly want to kind of ask is that, while we were going to our schools and while, my siblings were going to school, they were primarily, we were focused on getting a job after we get our education done, right? Now, I believe that there needs to be a shift in making sure that we actually produce kids with such knowledgeable facts that they are actually thinking about becoming entrepreneurs and bringing out more opportunities for more other people as well. And that's how the global sphere is these days as well, when we talk about Internet of Things or the economy as well. So how do you think that Beacon House International Colleges is working towards making sure that they have more entrepreneurs rather than job seekers?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really relevant point you've made. There has to be a shift from people just seeking jobs to being job creators and being self-employed. And one of the reasons for that is there's simply going to be fewer jobs available. We keep talking about the dearth of jobs in Pakistan. We keep passing the buck on to the government कि job creation क्यों नहीं हो रही, but actually we can do job creation ourselves, the people of Pakistan, if we become entrepreneurs. So we actually have I'm glad you brought this up. It's probably one of the most relevant subjects in education or in job, in the current economy right now. We've in Beacon House International College actually set up an entrepreneurship program, which which is free for all students. It's something which when conceptualizing the project was an integral component of what we believe had to be there for our education in BIC to be relevant. So we have a entrepreneurship curriculum. and that basically teaches things like, for example, design thinking, prototyping.
That is
A
so
lot of the
great.
sort of stuff that the approach to design and innovation that some of the world's leading firms like Google use, to invent and to validate their assumptions and prototypes. So those are a lot of the skills and the skills related with entrepreneurship that we've essentially bundled into one curriculum, which runs alongside whatever else the student is doing. So whether you're doing computer science, whether you're doing international relations, whether you're doing
So
law,
it will always aid.
it'll aid in that, because again, regardless of what your key specialization is, you can either be employed in that area or you can be an entrepreneur in that
Create
area,
jobs.
and you can create jobs. And I'll tell you one thing: even if you're employed for an organization, right? Organizations now are looking for creative thinkers, right? Even for what's happening is that for organizations, a lot of their mundane functions, at least in the West, not so much in Pakistan yet, but in the West, a lot of basic things can be done through automation. So, for example, a lot of legal work, legal document review, a lot of medical diagnosis now is being done through AI. What's happening is that employers, and it's, especially in the West, it's cheaper to use technology than human beings to perform a job, and that transition is coming in Pakistan as well. So even if you're working for a company, you may find that there will only be a job for you in the future if you can think creatively. If it's a mundane, repetitive job, you might find that even in Pakistan, your organization just decides to buy an algorithm to do that job, right? And this is not like science fiction. This is happening right now all over the world, and it's just a very short matter of time before it happens in Pakistan. So whether you're an entrepreneur creating jobs or you're working for an organization, they're going to look for skills beyond just subject specific skills if you want to move up the ladder and if you want job security. So it's an integral part of what we're doing, and I think any educational institution, I think even at the high school level and even at the middle school level, these sort of things need to start coming in. So I'm not going to talk so much about Beacon House right now, but we're trying to build like a curriculum throughout Beacon House which kind of gears students towards creative, analytical thinking from
And it will
a
be
very
helpful
early
throughout
age.
the life.
Throughout
It'll
the
be helpful
Yeah.
forever. I mean,
So you were talking about skill sets and reinventing the whole system, and
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you, you've done a lot from the primary level, like you've done things like educators and bubbles. I think that was your program as well.
Yeah.
So how important do you think is the primary level education or the primary education development for kids so that they can come up as leaders in the future?
I mean, it's super important. I've read some research that suggests that, I don't know, 80% of everything you'll ever learn, you learn by the age of, I don't know, 5 or
Yeah,
6
yeah,
or
yeah.
something,
That's what they
right?
say.
So if you think about it, that's not so far off, right? You look at a 6-year-old child and you can pick out a lot of major personality traits at that age. I think early years education is really important. I think more than education, I think at the early years, it's very important to work with students to develop the right attitudes
And the critical thinking.
and the critical thinking,
Creativity.
but the right attitude towards life, resilience, self-belief, grit, tenacity. I think some of the things we're talking about, if you're ambitious, think about it, go for it, don't make excuses. I think at the early years, it's important for schools to focus on those sort of skill developments and give kids an environment where they feel safe and secure and they feel motivated and they believe that they can be risk takers. जो risk averse लोग होते हैं ना, they tend not to be very successful in life. You need to, I think you also need to teach kids the difference between taking sensible risk and between being just silly and irresponsible. So I think इस किस्म के attitudes and qualities को inculcate करना is something that's really, really important in the early years. I think if you have a strong base in the early years, and teaching them and helping them be social in a healthy and productive way. Social skills are one of the most important things in life. So early years education or the early years foundation is exceptionally important. I would say probably the most important. You know, we tend to look at education in an interesting way. We're like, चलो early years का बच्चा है, चलो खैर है, अभी school जाए,
कौन
नहीं
सा
जाए,
PhD
whatever.
करनी है, things
Yeah,
like
मैं
that.
इतनी
Yeah.
दफा सुन चुका हूँ, you know,
Exactly, this is what
I'm
we
very
think.
thing about school. So my wife always, you know, कभी बच्चे school miss कर रहे होते थे, she'd be like, वो कौन सा PhD कर रहे हैं? I'm like,
This is
but you know, to be honest, not, but you know, a lot of people, but it's not about that. It's, you know, it really is the foundation.
It's building the discipline
where
basically. If
where
you're
you
settling
build
it.
everything up from there, then, right? So we actually need to, I think, look at education differently, put a lot of importance behind what happens in the early formative years. Higher education is very, very important, but unless there's a strong base to build on, and unless the student has, even if you don't have grit and determination and discipline, it's going to be very difficult for you to succeed in higher education where there's a lot of stress. So you have to build it up from the ground up. So I think early years teachers are the most important teachers, some of the most important teachers, and they have one of the most difficult jobs because they're taking these young personalities and
It
really
is very
molding them
difficult to deal
into
with them.
who they'll be, and it's very
Yeah,
difficult
very
to deal with them.
Do we
exactly.
have
in
a
addition
course?
to that, in
Yeah,
addition
sure.
to that, you know what I wanted to ask was, because back in those days, I still remember while we were studying as well, and my younger brother obviously went to Oxford afterwards as
Oh,
well.
nice.
After studying in Beacon House. So he was that one student who actually got career counseling while he was in
Yeah.
his A levels, and that's
Yeah.
something I'm talking about 96 to 97,
Yeah.
probably somewhere around that time. And I was super amazed that, you know, there are these schools, because I was studying at Barrier College at that time.
Yeah.
He was studying over there. And I was like, yeah, my teachers never told me which degree to opt for, you
Yeah.
know, how the future will probably look like. And then, you know, they were teachers way
Yeah.
ahead of our schooling system, where they were like, okay, you know, you want to do actuarial sciences. Nobody have actually heard about this very degree as well. So my brother was like, yes, that's what I want to do. Now imagine that, you know, when we speak about early years and when we talk about schooling, I think there are two most important aspects. Number one, obviously, you know, kids, they are not taken very seriously by their family. They're like, "Bachche hain, kaun sa PhD karne?" You know, there's this entire mindset which prevails. Then
Yeah.
number two, I believe that, you know, they should actually be schooled about how life is going to be in near future, you know, rather than just
For
telling
sure.
them whether Sally's eating a red apple or not. You know,
Yeah.
I think we really need to kind of focus on better things, because these days kids are very
That is
different
so
and
important.
smarter as
They're
well.
totally
So
different, yeah.
counseling, number one, and number two, how do you think that we can give them life lessons while they're in school?
Yeah. I mean, you need to, I think, integrate things into the curriculum, right? I mean, I think a lot of the life lessons, you know, come from the way you teach
True.
rather than what you teach. So, for example, you know, rather than having them, you know, do sort of rote revision, information regurgitation sort of work, right? Particularly in the early years, it just makes no sense. You know, have a much bigger focus on group work, collaborative work. You know, even the way they sit, you know, have them sitting in groups rather than, you know, individually facing the blackboard, so that the whole classroom environment is geared towards collaboration. Because, you know, like I said, you know, I talked about teaching students to socialize in a healthy way. You know, collaboration is a part of that. I think one of the integral skills in life is to be an effective member of a group. You know, a group actually produces more than the sum of its parts. So if you can be an effective group member or an effective group leader, and know how to be productive in that context, I think it can be very useful. So, you know, you can teach the same thing, but you can teach it in a different way. So rather than asking, you know, just telling बच्चों को, you know, कोई science की फर्ज करें आप topic समझा रहे हैं या cover कर रहे हैं, for example, solar system, that ठीक है, might come slightly later on. But you know, but let's take that as an example. Rather than just telling them कि ये याद कर लो, you can actually tell them to work on a project together. You know, एक चीज़ को you'll have found yourself also as an adult, when you actually do something, you remember
learn-
it,
yeah.
and when you're told something, you forget it.
True.
So you have them work on a project, maybe create a model, do something that's very hands-on, but do it together. So that not only are they learning by doing, which
By
is a
experience,
more, you know, forms a more permanent memory, but while doing it, they're forming those social bonds and learning how to, you know, work together as a group. So you have to teach in a way. You can't teach life skills, but I can't like come and say कि जी मैं आपको social होना सिखाता हूँ. You know, it's not, there's no curriculum for that. But I can put you in a situation
Where you will
where
learn.
you're, which
Automatically
facilitates
doing
you
that.
working in that way, and the more you do it, the better you'll
And
get at it over
unintentionally,
time.
I
Wow.
think, you know, you learn a little bit more as well. And, you know, this is
Yeah.
something which we actually used to do while we were in our university as well. So, you know, it was like a group study, and I would
Yeah.
always make sure that I'm going to teach my other fellows as well. And, you know, this way
So you were
I
doing
was
your
able to remember.
assignments yourself.
This way I was able to remember more. Yes, obviously I
sure.
was doing it myself as well. But,
Yeah.
sir, in addition to that, this
Ji.
is a question which I've posed to a lot of people who actually kind of are the flag bearers of education, may it be the primary or the middle,
Ji.
or when we talk about universities as well. Now, for example, I'm going to take you back in 18th century, you know, when the cars actually were being innovated and
Ji, ji.
things were there. So, you know, they had a simple steering wheel,
Yeah.
4 wheels, very slimmer, and a wooden cart probably on top of it and an engine.
Yeah.
Now, from there, from the 18th century, we sit down over here in the 20th century where we have, I mean, all the amazing features in every car, you know, so probably rollover, radar, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Why do you think that the classroom has stayed the same from 18th century till the 20th century?
Yeah, it's
What
If
it's
it has.
Oh, wow.
no, it in some ways it has also. You know, it's there is this general probably valid critique of the education system, that it's you know, that it's a sort of leftover of the industrial revolution and structured that way. And you know, it's strange. I can't think of a good reason why, other than just maybe inertia कि एक चीज़ एक तरीके से हो रही है, and you know, we just keep you know, doing it that way. I think you know, but you know, to be honest, things are changing now. You know, and one of the I think factors that's brought in that change is COVID actually. So you know, as obviously horrible you know, a pandemic as it's been, it's really majorly changed the way in which we interact with each other. You know, I mean, there's so much more virtual, you know, work from
Yeah.
home. That's one transition that's been enabled.
I think
in-
it's great.
It's great, but in the school environment, I think it's led to, you know, because schools were forced to adopt more technology during COVID just to keep their basic education delivery going. But I think schools also learned that, you know, technology can enable new ways of teaching and learning. And I think that transition is starting to happen. Ek to technology is getting cheaper. And I'm not trying to suggest that technology in itself is a solution to the archaic nature of education in Pakistan, but it's you know, it's part of the solution. You know, it has the ability
To devise mechanisms.
well,
Yeah.
to devise mechanisms to provide a platform for collaboration beyond just physical boundaries. You know, collaborating beyond boundaries across continents, across countries.
Cross-national.
You know, it has the ability to deliver really interactive, unique sort of learning elements to students which otherwise aren't possible. And in a
Right.
country like Pakistan, it allows, you know, we have a scarcity of good teachers in this country. It actually allows us to bring quality education, you know, to the masses. So it's been transformative. So, you know, positive about the prognosis for the future.
Inshallah, and that's how we hope that the education sector is going to progress as well. But thank you very
Inshallah.
much,
Yeah.
Sir Nasir Mahmood Kasuri Sahab, for
Thank
being
you
with
very
us.
much,
It was
sir.
wonderful to be in conversation with you. And
you.
obviously, all the very best for the Beacon House International College system as well.
Sure.
Once again, thank you very much for taking our time, and you look absolutely stunning and dapper
Thank you.
as well.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
I think it is the demand of the day as well. Ladies and gentlemen, for anybody who kind of is the flag bearer of education, I think that's how they really need to come across. Smart, decent, intellectually positive, and making sure that they're going to have a stronger impact onto the future generations as well. And that's something which we want. We want to draw inspiration from the
True.
people we are studying with or we are studying under. You know, we really need to kind of look at them as our heroes as well, because they are the
Very
ones who
true.
inspire us every single day to be better persons and to be more learned as well. You want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say, okay, don't take the early years of children for granted. This is so important. Like we mentioned, this is
Yeah.
going to develop the base, and you know, that is how we're going to be future leaders someday, inshallah.
And God forbid, you know, if you really did have a hard time, you know, while you were going to school, you can always cope up. It's all right. Do not take that pressure. But with that, we're actually heading out towards a short break. While we speak about education, while we talk about how important it is to kind of make sure that we progress, and for that, the basis is education, ladies and gentlemen. The extracurricular activities are even more important as well, and that's how I have progressed in life, alhamdulillah. So one of those is tourism. Probably make sure that you take out time, go explore, because I've been to a lot of countries, alhamdulillah, myself, and this is what I believe, that what the book cannot teach you, traveling will teach you for sure.
Wow,
How
yes.
tourism is over here in Pakistan is something we will be exploring about. Please don't go anywhere, because we
After
are
the
actually
break.
heading out towards a short break. We will be right back. Good morning.
कुछ जुल्म थे देखे से एक आग लगी सीने में मिलकर जो बने थे ताकत जब मकसद था जीने में जब पास नजरिया था अपने फिर रोक सका ना कोई यूं पाकिस्तान बना था
Who am I? Am I the fire that burns at a Sufi's abode, where devotees come in reverence to seek warmth for frostbitten souls and rekindle the flame within? They come in throngs from all directions and in all hues to stop a while, but never to stay. Who am I? Am I the willow tree?
Welcome back, and right before going to break, we were talking about education, and Shahzad rightly pointed out something very important, that traveling teaches you a lot of things.
Quite a lot.
So we'd be talking about tourism. We have so much in Pakistan. We have landscapes, we have mountains, we have streams, rivers, and so much for the tourists to come and explore our country. So we'd be talking about that, Shahzad. Why don't you
Exactly, we
introduce
will
our
be
guests?
talking about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started from Arabian Sea and then coming down to 4 different types of deserts as well, where we even have the coldest desert over here and the highest ever coldest desert over here in Pakistan. Let's talk about people who actually want to kind of go summit a mountain. So we have peaks more than 8,000 meters as well. Then we have peaks more than 5,000 meters as well. Kashimaram, Kashimaram 2. So there's a long list, and there's a long array of, and there's a long list to kind of choose from where you want to go. Probably you want to go to Naran and Kagan, have the best cherries. Probably Hunza, and from there onwards, the infrastructure has been built on, and I think that this is the time where Pakistan can truly explore its unexplored potential within the tourism industry. But then at the same time comes the challenges where we certainly lack the facility and the luxury, because people these days, if even I'm traveling to K2 or probably a K2 base camp, I would certainly want to sleep well, right?
Yes,
I do not want to sleep under a camp. I would want a facility to be built over there which is actually more prone to the weather, and
Yes,
then kind of helps people to kind of accommodate themselves and be and so that they feel that they're actually at homes. Why are we unable to do that? Why is it that there's a lot of overcharging in the hotel rooms? Why is it that
is there any check and
even for a
balance?
camel ride, yeah, they're going to overcharge you, and in Karachi, they'll be like, sir, 500 ho gaya, chakkar lamba lagaya. So we really need to kind of standardize things. And to talk about that, ladies and gentlemen, we're lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be an entrepreneur and happens to be a barrister as well. He is Mr. Mansoor Shah Saab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Walaikum Assalam. Thank you for inviting me on the show.
Thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. First things first, the tourism potential within this country.
I think it's huge, as you rightly said, from the Arabian Sea right up to the highest mountains.
Yeah.
So our beaches have not even been explored,
Yes, true.
So imagine, what we've so far done is just mountaineering. So there's huge potential in this
So
country.
how can we, tap the potential more? I mean, what kind of steps have we taken, and what can we really do to tap into
So
this?
various steps have been taken by the governments over the years. What we lack is cohesion of policy and continuation of policy. So the governments need to agree on one policy, and we just need to let it continue and grow organically. There is huge potential in our deserts, right next to the sea. Gwadar, imagine. There's huge potential there. Then similarly, our historical sites, these need to be maintained, they need to be marketed, and people need to see them. There are so many historical sites I haven't even visited.
True.
So all we do is focus on northern areas, so we need to focus on other things as well. Yet we haven't even reached the potential of northern areas.
And thank you
haven't
very much
really
for saying that, because I think we really need to kind of appreciate the provincial government of GB as well, and it's because of the fact that they have really invested in their infrastructure. They always made sure that they're going to kind of come up with solutions which are out of the box. Now imagine, so there are not a lot of hotels and resorts when we talk about the northern areas of Pakistan. So the people over there, first of all, the literacy rate over there is above 70-80%. Everybody's educated. And in addition to that, what they've done is that they've come up with smarter solutions. So imagine if there weren't any hotels, people are renting out their own houses or probably rooms at booking.com, and then making sure that they're going to be nicer to people, they will never overcharge. So this is the difference which I've kind of witnessed myself in northern areas in the rest of Pakistan. How do you think that we actually need to standardize it, or do you think that the government really needs to jump into it, kind of label it or refer to it as an industry?
So I think there are a few aspects in this. I think regulation to an extent is good, but it's a double-edged sword.
Why would you say that? Okay.
We can't really have over-regulation of an industry either. It has its own disadvantages. So I think it's important to have a benchmark standard, and everyone needs to agree on that standard. And once those standards are benchmarked, then everyone can expect to have a certain experience, But a lot of it is, it turns out that our staff and our employees and potential employees are not very skilled in providing a service, because this is a service. And people will pay for good service, and service has its own levels. Like we have 5-star hotels, 3-star hotels, 4-star hotels, and they charge according to that
and then
service.
we have hotels who say that they're 4-star, but they're not.
They're not, and
Exactly,
they even
yeah.
charge higher.
Yeah.
So the star rating comes from the various directorates of tourism services in the
Sometimes
provinces.
even the names are like 5-star hotels.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's only the name. The hotel is
Yeah,
not
of
supposed to be
course, that's
5-star.
it.
It's probably 1-star or 2-star.
But since we are talking about service industry, obviously a lot of trainings go into service industry,
Yes.
worldwide, and people obviously kind of train their staff to make sure that they're able to handle all sorts of guests, and guests can always be difficult at times too as
Yes.
well. But that does not allow that hotel staff or probably whoever you're encountering, and if you're a Battamis gentleman, God forbid, you know, obviously they seriously need to kind of give you that respect, which you might not even deserve. But I think it's a part of their job. Imagine that we have a service industry where there's no training at all, where we do not teach people how to greet people, where we are overcharging even for a heater in the room, and that too in the coldest of the weather as well. In addition to that, you go to Murray, sir, आप गर्मियों में season है, sir, you go in winters, sir, आप सर्दियों में season है. बंदा पूछता है यार कब season नहीं? You know, when is not the season? You know, so you know, there's so much of lie, and then there's so much of talking, and then there's so much of bass and uncomfortability. That the one thing's like, okay, it's best to be at home.
So you know, there's a lot of work that is going on, particularly by the hotel industry. You know, they're training people and they are setting up their own institutes, but it's primarily limited to their own requirements.
Like said, that day we were talking to a gentleman, hospitality management. He was telling us about the workshops that they are conducting and the kind of things that they're teaching, and we kind of asked them what kind of skills are they teaching. So just like Shahzad said about something about Battamis gentlemen, they were telling about the soft skills that we need to develop.
Exactly.
Besides the other things.
It's you know, just teaching them how to be nice to people, you know, because customer service is about being nice and kind.
It's so important.
You may not be able to deliver what your customer is asking, but you can say no in a nice way, you know.
So how can we increase this? I mean, the workshops and the training programs.
I think employers need to be really involved in this, and they need to train people. I mean, on many occasions when I travel, I see somebody serving me tea, you know, and the spoon is actually wet already. So imagine if somebody uses sugar, and you just it just gets stuck to the spoon, and you know, there's nobody, and these are little things, and nobody cares about it. A lot of the times tables are not clean, you know, so which is fine, you know, even that has a certain customer base, okay, but who are okay with that. But but there needs to be a certain standard, you know. Basic cleanliness is important.
I mean, if you're at a driver hotel, you might not
exactly.
even mind.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
You know, that's not a problem.
Truck wali.
I mean, whatever it is. But I think he's absolutely right. At this point of time, what I kind of want to talk about over here is that while we speak about how, you know, the companies and the employers really need to be responsible for the kind of people they hire, I think there's a certain responsibility for the people who actually go to enjoy that services. I think they should carry that responsibility. You go to the northern areas, you know, we have seen it, you know, just very recently how, you know, somebody was wall painting and stuff. You know, so the entire family was kind of taken to the police station because this wasn't allowed. Now imagine, you know, throwing garbage everywhere else, making sure, and you know, for example, if somebody has paid 8,000 rupees rent for a night, you know, they feel as if, you know, they own the place. You know, and please make sure that you don't do that. You know, everybody needs to stay in their pants and stay in their limits, you know, so enjoy the service which they're offering, not what they're not offering at all, you know. So please make sure that you don't go over there. How do you think that we educate our masses? Because amidst COVID, we have seen that the domestic tourism increased many-fold. And, you know, for that, people really need to be kind of very, you know, welcoming in the first place that, okay, you know, we really need to respect their value, and, you know, they need to respect our value. So it needs to be at an equilibrium.
It's important to set examples ourselves, you know, number one. Number two, marketing campaigns and actually telling people off, you know. You and I don't tell people off. If somebody chucks a wrapper out of their car, we just ignore it because we just ignore it. We're used to it. It doesn't bother us. So when it starts bothering us, we will start telling people off, and slowly, you know. And another thing that I say quite a lot is that our school kids need to be told that these things are wrong, you know, so they can go back to their parents and their family and friends, you know, and it needs to start from basics, you know. So I think, and it's a very important aspect, you know, wherever you go, there is trash everywhere.
So we see there are incidents almost every year in Galyat or something like that. You must have seen sometimes there's a jhagda or something, or, you know, the traffic jam, or you know. So do we have some kind of system that really checks?
We should actually have tourism police or something of that sort.
So it
out
has
there
started.
to help us rather than the people of that place.
So it has started. It has started in KP, and a few days back, I saw on Twitter
that
that
in news somewhere.
in Murray they've set up a tourist police
Yeah.
concept, and it's important because they can actually help the tourists. And it happens across the world, you know. Go to Turkey, for example, they have tourist police. Go to Thailand, they have tourist police, and they're there to help the tourists. From overcharging, from bad services, from traffic congestion, you know, all of these things. And our problem is that because we don't have tourist spots, many tourist spots, we focus on the ones that are available. And imagine we are a population of 220 million people. So, and then many incidents happen. It's not just the fighting, you know, unfortunate incidents like what happened in Murray.
Turkey.
you
And
know?
even, I mean, obviously, you know, with the one in Murray, obviously that was very unfortunate. And ladies and gentlemen, you know, after 3 decades of my life, you know, I never knew that, you know, that you know, the guesses actually kind of which comes out from your silence, it can actually be this dangerous. Nobody knew about it. It was unfortunate. But imagine just yesterday, it was on the Turkish social media that a few Pakistani men, you know, weren't really very nice while they were in Turkey. And, you know, there was this trend on Twitter by the Turkish people that you really need to kind of take out all of what you have been doing in Turkey back to Pakistan, and we
really
certainly
sad.
do not agree to what you have been doing. So we really need to be responsible rather than, you know, getting ourselves a bad name as well. But very quickly, now one more thing, and you know, this is something which I've experienced myself. I got married when I was 24, young couple, traveling. Wherever I'm going, you know, so the people would stop me, rather, you know, ask me questions which I wasn't really comfortable answering alongside my family, asking for my wife's identity card and things like that. And I was like, hey, you know what? It's
More
just
like
more
harassing.
problem for me rather than
Yeah.
you know, making it more simpler for me. Nahi sir, bada zaruri hai, police wale aate hain, and all of that. I was like, yeah, what's wrong with you guys?
So these attitudes need to change, you know. These are those things which will actually hold tourism potential back. And the government needs to intervene in this quite strongly, I believe. Because in tourism, you cannot do this. You do this, you are
Gone.
stopping
That's it,
tourism,
yeah.
basically, you know, because it is an experience. I go to Swat, for example, for an experience. If my experience is being disturbed by overzealous police officers or overzealous government officials, it's becoming bad. I haven't even gone to my destination,
Exactly.
but my experience is already terrible. So, and I've had similar experiences outside Pakistan, but they are extremely, extremely rare. Okay, not the same. Not police wala
But are these
stopping you.
attitudes different for foreigners? Because we are Pakistani locals, we just
Yeah,
go
yeah.
there.
Definitely.
And before you answer that, you know, there's this very funny incident which came up to my mind, and that was, so I was on
That's
Mall
really
Road,
laughing.
Lahore. And I think, sorry, Mall Road, Murray.
Murray.
And so it was 11 at night or 12 at night, and it was summer, so I was wearing shorts. Imagine they took me to the police station because I was wearing shorts. And I was like, what's wrong with you guys? And it was like, you cannot wear shorts on Mall Road. I was like, why? What's the problem? Well, you're not allowed. And I was like, yeah, come on. I mean, if I came to Murray in summers, I wanted to feel a little
Yeah,
chiller.
exactly,
You know what I'm saying? Imagine they shouldn't be
They
doing
would
that,
not
right?
let you enjoy.
You know, so her question, my question.
So, I mean, these are personal things. Why should somebody be bothering you about shorts, you know? And
Not even in Peshawar.
I mean, anywhere, you know. If you have to promote tourism, you have to put up with this.
True.
So we have to decide: do we want tourism in the real sense or not? If we want tourism in the real sense, yes, we have to put up with these things. You know, this is a personal choice. People might want to wear shorts or wear trousers. You know,
Wear whatever they want to wear,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let them enjoy.
Exactly. Sorry, what was your question?
Was the same that the attitude is different for Pakistani people?
Yeah,
and
definitely,
different for
because
The
foreigners?
rates
mean,
are different for Goras.
we
as well.
are, yeah, they pay more. They pay more, or rather, they are charged more.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, actually.
Unfortunate.
And similarly, Pakistanis tend to be in the best behavior, you know, when they're around
Yeah,
Goras.
yeah,
So
that's our double standards.
Exactly, but thank you very much, Mr. Sir, for being with us. It was wonderful
you
to
very
kind of
much.
be
Thank
in
you very much.
conversation with somebody who actually has so much information, knowledge about tourism. And ladies and gentlemen, everything being said, I think we really need to kind of make sure that we pay respect to all of those people who are traveling, who are coming to our places. I think we really need a lot of international, and there's been a shift. Yes, obviously Mr. Dubrinsky was here, dear Aline was here on this show as well, and these people have actually made it more easier for these countries for people to come in. So please make sure that you promote and make sure that you add value to somebody's stay while they're over here, while they're at your place or at your hotel, or if they're at your restaurant, rather than creating problems for them. So please make sure that you're fair. The rate list needs to be out there. May it be a foreigner, may it be a local, it needs to be the same for each and every individual out there. So please make sure that you look after yourselves. Towards the end, you want to say something?
No, you just said it.
All right, thank you very much. So great minds think alike as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of World This Morning, on your television screens as of now. It's going to come. On Twitter, it's World This Morning without a G. On Dailymotion and YouTube, it's World This Morning. The fabulous repeat is going to be at 10:05 tonight. Till the next time, look after yourselves. 1, 2, 3. Good morning.